Μιλάει. Ωραία. Καλησπέρα σας. Είμαι ο Λευτέρης Χαρίτος, πρόεδρος της Ελληνικής Ακαδημίας Κινηματογράφου και σας καλωσορίζω όλους σε ένα masterclass με τη Vicky Krieps. Να πω ότι είναι μια πρωτοβουλία της Ακαδημίας που ξεκινάει φέτος, την οποία ονομάζουμε Iris Close Up, το Iris από τα βραβεία Iris της Ακαδημίας, και εν ώψη των ευρωπαϊκών βραβείων, τα βραβεία δηλαδή, της Ευρωπαϊκής Ακαδημίας τον Ιανουάριο του 2027 στην Αθήνα, η Ελληνική Ακαδημία Κινηματογράφου ξεκινάει αυτήν την πρωτοβουλία για να συνδέσουμε στην ουσία τον ελληνικό κινηματογράφο με το ευρωπαϊκό στερέωμα. Έχουμε την τιμή να έχουμε σήμερα καλεσμένη την κυρία Vicky Krieps, η οποία είναι ηθοποιός από το Λουξεμβούργο, εκτοξεύτηκε στο παγκόσμιο στερέωμα όταν πρωτοεμφανίστηκε στην γνωστή ταινία του Paul Thomas Anderson, Phantom Thread. Μετά κέρδισε το βραβείο καλύτερης ηθοποιού στα ευρωπαϊκά βραβεία με την ταινία Κορσάζ. Από τις τελευταίες ταινίες που ενδεχομένως κάποιοι από εσάς να έχετε δει ήταν η ταινία του Jim Jarmusch, το Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, και έχει εμφανιστεί και σε μια ελληνική συμπαραγωγή, το Hot Milk. Μια ταινία η οποία ταξίδεψε σε πολλά φεστιβάλ. Να καλωσορίσουμε τη Vicky Krieps. Welcome. Thank you very much for the honor. Yes.
Hello.
Mrs. Krieps has asked that you may, during the whole talk, pose questions. She
Yes.
will take questions anytime. So it's not just a Q&A at the end. It's questions during the whole masterclass. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Vicky Page. I had to say that, that's an insider. But I also actually forgot my guitar. I'm realizing I should have. Because I didn't know I would land on a stage. Usually a masterclass is somewhere in the room with the coffee table at the end, you know? Now I feel very on stage. It's like, what's happening? Am I supposed to stand or, you know, it's like, it's very, I don't know who are actors amongst you, but it feels very much like I'm supposed to perform. I won't. I am so happy to be here, first of all. Thank you for the invitation of the Hellenic Film Academy. I'm always very happy to be invited to Athens and Greece, and for many reasons that I will not go into now. But I am really, truly very happy, and I am also truly very unprepared, which is part of what I'm going to talk about. It's called silence. Now, I wasn't going to just sit here. That would be very me, though. Actually, I'm thinking of a first one. Before we watch because we are going to watch a clip, I will tell you something on silence. When I was 21 years old, and I'm from Luxembourg, which is a very small country, very, very small. So we don't even have professional football players nor professional actors. People are, you know, a lawyer and an actor or something. I'm not joking, really. And I think I heard of one guy once being a real actor, and he was playing at the Munich theater in Munich, but it was more like a legend. And so I didn't know you could be an actor, and definitely not me, because I'm just me, right? That's what we always think. It's just me. Why would I be an actor? Coming from such a small country. So I went online and I typed, you know, film school. Where do I go? What do I do? Then you have to learn a monologue. Okay. So I learned the monologue. It also said other things, but I couldn't really. I was too nervous, I think. I went with my little suitcase. It was like the ones, you know, from the 50s, like a little square. I looked like someone who's about to do a clown, you know. I don't know why I took that, but I had this little suitcase, and I had my things in there, and there was also my pajama. And so I go to the biggest, most famous German one called Ernst Busch. Sandra Hüller, my friend, she studied there, and she's the opposite of me. She was a very good student. And funny enough, we land in the same world at the end, so which is also going to be about what I'm going to talk about. But for now, my little story of silence. I go, and they tell me, oh, but it's 2 monologues. So I passed my test, the first one, because it was apparently good. It was Joan of Arc. And I pass it, and they say, okay, now the few lucky ones, who get to the second round. Now is your second monologue. And I'm like, oh, shit. What do I do? Now, do I go home? Of course I don't go home. What did I do? I stayed. I put on, in this little suitcase, that's why I remember it, was my pajama. I put on my pajama, and I thought, well, it's a second costume, right? I had a little towel in there. Take the towel. It was a stage like this one, actually, like completely black, very intellectual theater. And everything very, very, very serious, like very like that. And I come on stage, and the light is very bright, and I can't really see, which helps me, and I put my little towel there. I sit on the towel, and I'm silent, and I'm not joking. I sat there in silence, and I had a whole world in my head. I was sitting, waiting on my boyfriend who never came, and I still remember the trees I saw around me, and I sat there silent. And then afterwards you get like a little, because I was part of the people who were left over, so they took you more serious, they gave you a feedback. And I go to see these 2 ladies, East German theater ladies, I'm very, very serious. And they ask me, sorry, but are you handicapped? First of all, you wouldn't say that today. That's gone. But they couldn't understand why I came on stage and I didn't talk or sing or perform, because that's what everyone was there to do, was to show off and impress. And I just sat on... And of course I failed, by the way. But I really like failing, which is also what I'm going to talk about. But I just thought of that I caught this silence, and that actually my beginning was in silence. I wasn't crowned with success, but here I am. So it's for you to judge. But anyway, silence on the stage is very interesting, I think. Should we watch the first clip? Maybe I go sit on the side, no? Should I turn this off?
Je suis la porte de votre chambre.
Thank you. So, why did I choose this? And what do I really want to talk about? I don't know who of you saw the movie La Belle et la Bête from Cocteau. And also, I chose this after saying that I would come. And the reason I agreed to do this master, I thought, what do I have to say? Not that it's just, I'm aware of the responsibility of speaking, in the world we live today, where it's very important we share the right words, and we are very mindful about what we, when do we use the stage and what do we use it for. So I didn't know at first, and then what happened simultaneously now is that not too long ago a book appeared in my name. So I'm officially an author, but I'm also not, which is what I want to talk to you about. This is like a book, at the same time it's an accident. And I love accidents, personally. And why I chose this book is Cocteau, in the beginning of this film there's a little pancarte and it says, please approach this film with the openness and the wonderment of a child. So the mind of a child. And he created in this film it was kind of an avant-garde aesthetic for the time. It was much more pure. He would use modern pieces of furniture in that film. It's not, he called it, he said to his décorateur, please don't give me the look of hostellerie, like the usual, we are making a fairy tale movie, it looks really cozy, like you're in a hostellerie, So they used really modern furniture, and they dared to make it outside of what we expect. And this scene that we saw is completely silent, right? And as a child, I was always so fascinated with silence because I was mainly, surrounded by noise, all these people talking, and most of the time they were talking bullshit, honestly. I mean, all these grown-ups, whatever they said, they would do the opposite of what they just said. They would promise you something, they do the opposite. They would tell you, don't do this, and then you see them do the same thing. Like, it seemed like the whole world was built with these rules and words, and no one was following them, but everybody was forced into keeping the rhythm. And the only place I didn't feel that was when I was silent, and also when I was surrounded by silence. And as soon as I was surrounded by silence, I could feel, the universe, or I could feel, I would go to the forest a lot, and I would think I would hear the trees, but I didn't hear them talk, obviously, really, but it felt like I was talking to them, but in silence. And it felt to me so much more truthful than all the talking I was surrounded by in school or at home. And in this film, he uses a lot of those techniques, and he does it in silence, and you can feel time passing, and you can feel something is happening that you don't have to understand. The Bête also says, I wrote it down somewhere, ne cherchez pas à comprendre. So when he meets the merchant, he says, don't try to understand. So when I think film and theater and all these things are a lot about not what we have to understand, but what we have to dream. And we as actors, and I'm an actor, carry this space of dream. This is really what we are. We are not so much word machines or even action machines. That's what people think. And a lot of acting techniques are about how do you produce an effect, right? For instance, in this famous East German school, they would say, don't try, to try and act crying. All you have to do is just turn around, go like this, and They actually say that. I also love that. I mean, we actors are all this, and I love all this. But there's also the notion of something that we don't understand. And when we are an actor, we hold the space for what we don't understand, because the furniture is in all its beauty the furniture, you know. The camera is a machine and behaves. So it behaves after certain rules. I also wrote something down about this, but it doesn't matter really who said that or what this really is, but what I wanted to say is when the machine behaves, I think what's left to the human is to misbehave. And I wasn't going to call the masterclass Misbehave, because I didn't want you to panic and be like, what is she going to do? But it really is about that. So I truly believe that we are entering a time where it's of great importance to misbehave, truthfully and mindfully. And I also believe that silence is a form of misbehaving and is a form of resistance. It's a silent, peaceful resistance, I think, that will carry the sword in our time. And I think that actors, also filmmakers, we are the people who can make space for that. For everyone to slow down. You mentioned Jim Jarmusch, and I did this movie with him, and I randomly met a teenager who has nothing to do with me or with this world of art or filmmaking. And he was so impressed, and he didn't know he would like the film so much. And what impressed him, because he grows up in a different world, was that it was slow. He was like, it was so cool, it was so slow, it was just a different pace, you know. So to me, silence is also a way of slowing things down. And as actors, we have the capacity to slow things down, mainly when we are not interested in what is the outcome of what I do, right? Which brings me back to this book. So I wrote down the silence in my heart. I don't know why, but I read it to you because I apparently wanted you to hear that. I wrote it in German. Before I share with you how it starts, I tell you the story of how this. I want to share with you all the story of how this book happened. So I was in a theater school. I ended up landing in Zurich because I liked the lake, and I didn't know anything about those schools. And I didn't know you have to pick the best one. I picked the one with the lake. Really, that's the truth. And I found out when I was on the school that there was a whole hierarchy about schools, and Anyway, I liked the lake, and I would go swim in the lake before school sometimes. It calmed me down. And so I was in that school, and it was going okay, but as you can imagine, I don't do very well with rules, and structures, and as soon as I feel that it's not true, not truthful. Schools are a great place for rules that make no sense, or schools that are not truthful. And in my school, towards the end, I enjoyed going to school. I'm someone, I love learning. I love to learn. But as soon as there is a rule, now this is how it is and not like this, and I say why, and they say because, I'm out. I can't. So, I bumped into those rules a few times. And towards the end, I was already quite exhausted and not really on good terms with my school. I had played a theater play in Zurich. I had played at the local theater as a student, and they asked me my money. They said, can we have deine Gage, what you were paid as an actor? And I said, no. And they said, yes. And I said, no. And then they invited me into the director's office, and there were these two, the head of acting and the head of directing. No, Vicky, but you have to understand, you have to give us this money. This is always how it goes. And I say, yeah, but I didn't know that. You didn't tell me. You cannot come up with this now. Yeah, but it's like that. I said, but is it written somewhere in the school contract, No, Vicky, it's like, when you adhere, when you enter an African tribe. I swear that was the example he used. It's like when you enter an African tribe, you also, just by a handshake, enter all their rules. That's how it works. I said, I don't think so. And I was very nervous, I was really young at the time, and I had these two older, very powerful men from my, world at that time sitting in front, and I was like little like this in my chair. But I just felt that I was not going to say yes, so I said no. Okay, well, maybe then we have to throw you from the school. I said, okay. And they didn't, of course, because I don't have to explain it to you, but of course it was, bullshit. It doesn't make sense. So they didn't throw me from school, but we were not on the best terms. So, which brings me to the end of the school, where I was in master. We were doing the master, and I was like, oh, fuck this shit. I don't want to do a monologue. I know I'm swearing a lot, but we are still not in America, so I can. So what was I going to say? Yes. So at the end, I was supposed to do a big monologue for everyone to see me, so theaters would find me, so they would want to work with me. Boring. So, and also I didn't want to do what they tell me to do. That was my main goal. So I sat down and I wrote a play, and I directed it. I also asked them to write a play, to have the permission, instead of writing a bachelor thesis and a master thesis, which they declined. I'll come back to that later. So I wrote a play, which while I was directing it, it was a play, it's set in, silence again. It's set in a world where you can only use words that you own. So only rich people speak and poor people can't speak, and therefore they live alone. And he one day finds a book, and then it's like Faust. I was like, oh, this is like Faust. He finds the book, and the book is like the magic book, and he now can says the formulas. And so I need a Mephisto, and I'm only telling you this one because it's funny. I need a Mephisto. I don't know anyone who could play the devil. I mean, maybe an animal, but none of my student friends, actors, could be the devil. So who do I call? My mom. I actually did that. And I say, hey, Mom. And she's not an actor. I need you to come to Zurich. Can you come for 2 weeks and be in my play? You have to be Mephisto. She's like, oh, yeah. Why? I said, I don't know, because you have Rasta. Because she had like these long gray Rastas. Totally unaware that it's completely Freudian, right? I mean, but I didn't even realize. I just asked her because I couldn't think of anyone. So she comes and we do this in secret. And I do this play, and people come to see it, and they all laugh a lot, like you just laughed. And it works. Now, the school wasn't happy with me at the time, but they had to give me the best note. Because, I don't know, they liked it, everyone. Okay, so I find myself at the end of school that I was going to hate, and I was going to leave with the best note of the whole class. And I'm thinking, okay, well, now you can also finish it. So, then I fall pregnant. It was an accident. Another accident. A beautiful accident. And I decide that the world wants me to be a mother. So I will have the child. So, being pregnant, having the child, and also someone in Berlin saw the play and offered me to direct a play in Berlin, which is why I live nowadays still in Berlin. I hadn't planned it. I thought I was an actress. He didn't care. He said, did you direct this play? Yeah. Okay. So I went to Berlin pregnant and tried to finish this school. I asked, how can I finish the school from afar? What can I do? No, you have to come to Zurich and do all the classes. Okay, but I'm pregnant and I will have a baby. So how it is? I'm like, okay, I'm coming. So my daughter was born. I take the train, go to Zurich, breastfeed her in the toilet, ask my best friend to look after her sometimes, which I think today it wouldn't be like that. Anyway, and I managed to collect all my points and do all my courses, and I'm left with the master thesis. Now I'm thinking, well, I did this play, I got the best note. I collected all my points. I'm so tired now, I can't stand, because I'm breastfeeding at night, writing the thesis also at night, starting to work to earn money. I had no money. Like I had minus 2,000 when I arrived in Berlin. Okay, so I do my first acting roles. One is in Hannah, one is in Anonymous, in a little German film. So I'm really, 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 really exhausted, and I have zero help. And I write this thesis, and I hand it in, and I get it back with a big red pen across it, saying, no, you cannot. This is forbidden because this would be called a memoir, but this only works if you're famous. So if you're not famous, you're not allowed to talk about your own experiences. Right? And I was heartbroken. I was really heartbroken. I was aware it wasn't going to be high literature. Also, I promise I wrote it at night. That's when I learned insomnia for the first time in my life, because it was, as you can imagine, too much. But I wrote it, and I thought they would at least appreciate that someone tried to find their own idea, or share their own thoughts. But no. So I was really heartbroken, and I said, okay, now I'm really turning my back on the system, it's whatever. 10 years later, I am suddenly apparently famous enough, because the same school calls me to say, can you come to Zurich? We want to give you an honorary. It's like a thing that only very certain students get when they become very famous, or very notorious, or whatever. And I'm thinking, I'm going, let's see. And I want to go to cause a riot, I want to go on stage and say, hey, you motherfuckers, where's my degree? I want my diploma now. But, again, as it goes always different than you think. I land, I arrive at the airport, and there's my professor from all these years back. And he stands there to wait for me, crying. An old, 70-year-old man crying. I wasn't prepared for that, So I'm saying, wow, what's happened? Why are you so emotional? And I haven't seen this person in 10 years. And he says, I'm so embarrassed, and I cannot tell you for years and years. I don't know what to do, and I can't believe they, didn't give you your degree. He was not there at the time, so someone else corrected my thesis, and he couldn't be there too. And then he says, I wanted to let you know, I illegally opened the archives because my thing was unter Verschluss, was closed, the document. And he somehow found a way to get it and open it and read it and said, not only, is it outrageous they didn't give you your degree, also I think it's really great. And I spoke to a publisher in Berlin, and we're going to publish it as a book. So, here I am with a book. And the book is, you will see it, if anyone ever reads it, it's very, it's really written by a student and someone who wasn't sleeping, and it's not, and also someone who didn't think anyone would read it, so it's very, we're talking, like it's really, really, really basic, trying to find your thought kind of writing. But at the time I wanted to write about silence. I didn't dare to call it Misbehave because I was too young. And I also didn't make it all about silence because I was too insecure. So it is a lot also about what I see in other people, trying to do it the right way. I actually tried to do it the right way, but it didn't work. But what I wanted to talk about was silence because I was so fascinated as a child and later as an actor. And like in the Belle et la Bête, this is the first film that I saw that I wanted to not be an actress. I actually found the actors boring. I wanted to be part of these people who create a world like that. You saw the arm, which is the candle holder, which is moving. It's the most simple thing. We could all do that now. We could make a a little film, and someone puts the arm to the wall, and the arm is moving, and it's magic. And it's silent. And this kind of magic is what I was attracted to as a child. And it wasn't so much to be the actress, but it was to be part of these people who create this kind of magic. And Cocteau himself compared himself often to a carpenter, and his movies to carpentry, which I didn't know. It's funny because I sometimes say that in interviews also for some reason. But he called his movies to carpentry, and he said his movies are tables where the audience is invited to create and have a séance, during which they heraufbeschwören dreams and illusions, you know. So, and I think this is very, very true, that we invite the audience. And in my little book, in the first, I also was happy to read that. I came here, and in the first sentence there's a Greek word, theatron, you know, which in my thing I say that it comes from seeing. And to see, you see what someone puts in a frame for you, right? But the audience also has the responsibility or the freedom to see or not see, or to see or see somewhere else. And we as the actor, when we are on stage, let's say, we can honor that. We, you know, I think it's whenever we see an audience as like, this is the audience and this is the actor, that we lose the magic. Because you are allowed as an audience to leave the room. You're allowed as an audience to disembark from this train, from what I'm saying, from what I'm playing to you. And me as the actor, I'm also a little bit allowed to do that, which is what I mean with misbehave. And if as an actor you allow yourself, this is my observation only, you know, so I don't know, I don't speak for other people, is that when you allow yourself to disembark from that train and from that role you have, and the rule that you are the actor, the performer, that you are here to be seen, something magical can happen. When I let go of wanting you to believe me, if I let go of wanting you to like me, if I let go of wanting you to look at me, something other can happen, and something actually other happens. And it is a very, very powerful tool. So I think silence can be the most powerful of revolutions, but it's like in the tiniest of things that we can place the grain, you know. And I think in acting nowadays we are starting to be allowed to outgrow this basic structure of what an actor really is. I will continue until you ask a question. I have one more thing to say. I mean, I have a few more things to say, but it was Pudovkin, yes, who said the camera behaves. Anyway, so I will talk of. I need to stand. I hate sitting, actually, to be honest with you. You can hear me like that too, right? So, you maybe know the movie Phantom Thread, right? And in this film, I was a very young, unexperienced, but I hadn't done many movies before, actress who was entering a world that had also the rules of their own, you know. I was suddenly with the master, Daniel Day-Lewis, you know, the mountain of preparation and mastery and control, wisdom, age, fame, and me. So what can I do, you know? If I start to prepare, how can I even in 1 year make it up there? I will never. So I decided to not prepare. I started to unprepare, which became now part of my work, really. And this unpreparing led to the following situation, which I want to share with you, talking of silence and misbehaving. So I get to on set, the second day of shooting. It's the first day that I personally allow myself to realize a little bit who I'm working with. Because part of my own preparing was not looking up anyone on Google. I mean, I knew Daniel Lewis, but I wasn't just going to add more to this. I didn't read anything about method acting. Big mistake. I didn't read anything about Paul or didn't watch any. I had seen some of his movies, not all. I was trying to forget what I know. So I forgot what I knew, and the second day I'm like, oh my God, I'm working with this guy, and I'm also the second lead. Like, oh my God, crazy. And as the car pulls up, there's this beautiful view. I don't know if you've seen the film, but it's like this beautiful English coastline, green, and we are walking along, and there's the ocean behind this. The English coastline, and then I come there with, they drive me with the car. I'm already in makeup and everything. I go up to them, hi. I'm thinking, wow, crazy. Then, okay, shall we shoot? Yes, let's go. Okay. We start to shoot. Reynolds is on my left, let's say. We're walking, and we say 1, 2, 3 lines, I would say, a few things. And we continue to walk, and we continue to walk, and we continue to walk, and we continue to walk. And it was a really, 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 really long rail, traveling shot. I'm like, wow, they put up all this material, such a long rail, just for us to walk. That's wonderful, really. That's really, I love this. Just us walking, the ocean behind, beautiful. Cut. I go back to Paul Thomas Anderson, smiling, hey, and he comes up to me, he's like, hey, Vicky, so that was great. Did you not like the dialogue? Do you not like the lines? Or why didn't you say that? And I look at him and I say, it's probably the best poker of my life. And I say, yeah, no, I didn't really. I felt it was a bit too heavy, too much about the dead mother. I don't know if it has to be about that here. It's so beautiful. Like, why would I talk about the dead mother? I kind of guessed that because the first 3 lines were about my mother. I go back to the script and I say, hey, can I just look at because I want to know, between the dialogues, if it says if we stop at the fence or... I run over, I look at the thing and I go, and there was another page behind what I had read. It was a whole page of text. And I say to her, can I have it just for a second? I happen to have, which saves my ass all the time, what you call a photographic memory. Not like the full thing, but good enough to just be like, okay, I have to just enter this text. We go back to the scene. We do the scene again. I say it pretty well. I think I probably 95% say the text the way it's written. And cut, and Paul comes back and says, no, you were right, actually. We take out the whole text about the mother. It's heavy. We're leading all the way to Alma appearing out of nowhere. You don't know anything about her family. Which is something he did then. That's his choice. But why I'm saying this? I think actors have to misbehave more often. Because if you have something that's called preparation, I also prepare. I love to prepare. And then I love to forget what I prepared. And the only reason is because what's important to save in all of us is the human. And why I think it's important to talk about this now and today is because we are going to be, what is the verb I don't want to paint it too black. We're going to be cohabiting with machines more often. And everything that is following or learning by heart, the machine can do. What the machine can't do is the mistake. and then react out of the moment towards the mistake, and then find a solution or not. Also, the machine will always want to try and find a solution. It's programmed to find a solution. We are not, you know. So in that moment, I wasn't trying to solve it, but I was trying to stay alive in the moment, stay truthful to what had happened. Because there's always something to be found when you continue where you are, you know. I could have even stopped the scene while I realized, oh, the rail is too long, and said, sorry, is something wrong? Did I forget my lines? Or, but yeah. So also there, silence was in the end more interesting, and he even changed the whole character, you know. But that was also part of everything else I did and misbehaved in that movie. But yeah. Should I don't know. I can say one more thing about silence, or I can... Yes, please.
I wonder...
I hear you. It's fine. Oh, it's maybe for the recording.
I wonder, how do you imagine the balance between unpreparing and preparing enough to be responsible or something?
Yeah. I think the preparing part, what is most important about the preparing part is to be, to work on yourself in the sense that you, to make yourself available to the material. So what I mean is, like, it's similar to meditation. So the more you remove your ego, or the more you become empty, the more other things will arise that are like of your instinct or your subconscious, which is what he said with the table and the seance. I think as actors we are sometimes also something like a shaman, or because really if we are honest and we are clean and clear, thoughts can arrive and ideas can come that are way greater than what I could have thought of if I wanted to do it by the book, you know. I mean, obviously you have to learn your lines and you have to prepare for your character, but let's say, what would be a good example? So when I did Corsage, I had to learn how to ride the horse on the side, you know. Very important. I have to actually do that in order to be able to do this. Or sword fighting, I had to actually take the course to learn this. Or to speak Hungarian, you know, I think every second day I had an hour and a half of Hungarian, which almost broke my brain. Or ice swimming, I had to learn how to ice swim. And I met, speaking of preparation, so every second day in Vienna, in the middle of winter, everyone walking with these big dudun, you know, like big jackets. I met this man who was a champion in ice swimming. Hi Vicky, how are you? Okay, let's go. And he undresses and he's in a Speedo, in ice, everything covered in ice and snow. And like, okay, let's go. And I had to take off my clothes, and we started, every second day I had to go into the ice Danube to be able to, so now I can be in ice water. Before that I couldn't. So certain things, obviously, everything that's physical, everything like that, we have to learn. I read about the rules, you know, they would have in the palace. But I also had to allow myself to misbehave. Like, you know, doing this as an empress is not preparing for your role, because that is not in the preparation of a Sisi. Or you know, getting up and taking the fork and doing this, or pulling out your tongue like that. That is, if I was someone who would be interested in preparing the perfect Sisi, she would never do that. So the balance lies in the truthfulness of you, and how do you want to do the film to show the world that you're the greatest actor of all time, or do you want to do the movie to show the world something real? You know, I personally did it for her. I mean, this is between us, and no one needs to know that actually, but for myself, This was what kept me going. I did it for her in my imaginary mind. I would invite her to join me. I took her by the hand and I said, and now let's play. To me, I invited her into a time where she was allowed to do things she wasn't in the time she lived in. My director, Marie Kreuzer, who's very correct and precise, so she is someone who prepares, but in this movie decided to, similar to Cocteau actually, I'm thinking now, decided to take a modern furniture. And by taking the modern, allowing herself to misbehave and to say, well, I mean, this table is 10 years after the actual time it was supposed to exist, but I prefer it. Starting doing that, suddenly she made it the film, you know, and now some people are wearing Birkenstock, some people are wearing modern glasses, and she realized, oh yeah, actually, that is the movie also, because it's the time where time was ending. You know, at the end of this time, monarchy ended. At that time, no one would have believed that we would have a world without kings. The whole idea of religion changed in that time. They invented the train and electricity, which is in a way one straight line to the computer. So they were at a similar time than us, actually, and it was that everything was changing and the monarchy was breaking down. So Marie went, oh, that's actually perfect for this time. I will now use this furniture. But she had prepared, she knew about the time, but allowed herself to let go of her preparation and to misbehave. And then that became the identity of her film almost. So it is a balance, but you have to find out for yourself. But I think if you want my advice, if there's any compass, it's like your true honesty towards yourself. Why are you doing this? You know, and if that's truthful, you will always find the balance.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, beautiful talk. We met many years ago, and the first time I watched the film was Chamberlain Lane.
Yeah.
And that was in Cyprus.
Yes.
It was at the festival.
I think that was my first film festival
Exactly.
or something. Yeah.
And
I remember.
You were very generous in giving me agents and suggesting, and I thank you very much again. And I remember at that film, what impressed me was the way you, that was before Phantom Thread, so the way you appeared on screen the first time that I got connected with you was through your silence, because in that film you were also listening hidden under the beds, right? And I just connected it with the person that goes in a forest and listens to the trees. Yeah. And it's very interesting that today, again, you're talking about the presence, because after Chamberlain Lane, I suppose a lot of films came with beautiful scripts and a lot to talk about. But again, it seems that you go back to how it started in a way. Mm-hmm. And yeah. By the way, thank you for Isabel Munk. She was wonderful to connect me to the agency.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so this is an observation.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think the silence was always there. And I think I think why I talk to you all, guys, is because I think you all have it in you, this silence that you can use in your work, but you can use it in your life. And we are living in a society that tells us to act or talk, have an opinion. We have to like something or unlike something, or what do you like, how do you like it? Just be courageous and don't. Just sometimes refuse to talk and participate. Refuse to have an opinion or have to like it or not like it. Take time to be who you are and then speak or then move or that. You know, I mean, it's so easy, but it's not that easy when you do it, because, like you say, then you have a career and suddenly everyone wants you to behave, and then they want you to go here, and they want, like after Phantom Thread, they wanted me to be this thing, you know, the girl from Phantom Thread, you know. So what I actually did was I threw my phone away. I didn't have a phone for 6 months or something, and I left my agents, and in order to create, and now I'm thinking that it's the same thing, I actually created a silence. I had to create some silence to be who I am, and then from there I could make the choice and go and make French movies, which were very small movies and they didn't understand at all. And then of course I got lucky, and these films again, were in Cannes or places like that. But it was not at the time, my plan, or I didn't know that. I really chose to create that silence and then go and, do small independent French movies. And I'm thinking of because Chambermaid Lynn, I had the first time a whole character to play, which I remember was so nice. It's also the movie that Paul Thomas Anderson saw, by the way. Because I wasn't on any list. By being someone like me is not on the list. Like you would maybe not think that, but when I was 27 or 8, I was on no one's list. I was a young actress who already had a child, and who refused to play the game, and I didn't go to events and put on a nice dress and shake people's hands. And I decided, either I make it through my art, I will do something else. And so I did these kind of movies like Chambermaid Lynn, and Paul Thomas Anderson saw that film, and I'm saying this because it's also a kind of silence. It's also a kind of, they want me to put on the nice dress and go to the party and shake hands. It's a way of making you act or like get in motion or like, and I just didn't do that, which is a kind of silence. And I was found even though I was silent. Because I think if we are who we are truthfully, we will find our way, and things will find us, and the audience will find us. There's a...
Hello, thank you for this very inspiring talk. It's really a pleasure to be here and hear you saying all these things. It's funny because today I came to this masterclass about silence, and actually it's about misbehaving and the close relationship of those two. I never consciously realized, but now I do, and I've been having those dreams that I'm misbehaving in my dream, and it's almost a luxury that I'm starting to learn to do in my real life as a person and then as an actress as well. But what I wanted to tell you, what I wanted to share with you is that when I moved to France a few years ago and I didn't speak the language, and I went to see this film that you were in, Serre-moi fort, and I didn't understand what you were saying, so it was another sort of silence in a way, because it was a language but was not a language for me. And I connected so much the way you were in this film, and even though I didn't understand what you were saying, it was so impactful for me the way you spoke about grief, and in such a universal way and language. And I will never forget this one scene that maybe wasn't one of the most important scenes of the film, but for me it was very powerful. There was this man, unknown to you, in I don't remember what it was, a hotel. There was the place where your daughter was playing the piano, or you heard the piano, and there was this guy that you didn't know, and you went to him, and you started touching him and smelling him, and I don't know what it was, and it was a silent scene, or at least that's how I remember it, and I didn't know, it was so irrational and so powerful, and I couldn't stop crying, and I didn't know what I was crying about. But I'm emotional now talking about it, and it was that thing that you said also, that as an artist, you allowed me the space as an audience to see my own things, and to be invited in this world of yours that I didn't know what it was, but I connected in a way so truthful and deep that I will never forget. So thank you for that, and that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Um, now I'm very moved because, you know, when I say misbehave, I speak as someone who behaves all the time. Like if you're an actor, all you do is behave, really. I mean, you wake up at a certain time, they come and pick you up, we do, you know, over time you have to agree, like, and we all know that, you know, so I'm saying it in a playful way. But this scene, I didn't misbehave, but I also did something. And when I do these things, I always believe that someone somewhere will see it. And he just gave that back to me. Because this scene was something that was added throughout the film, because the director realized we needed, because she's someone who lost her family, so it's someone living with the fantasy, the ghosts, and also the fear of going insane by being alone and not close to her close ones. And they said, she's too alone, we need some physical contact with a man. They were thinking of a sex scene, very straightforward. And they said, no, we need that, and we need sex, and it's just something, we have a friend, she lost her husband, and you wouldn't believe she was just fucking everyone who was around, and we need to see that with her. And so, and I refused, and I said, I don't think that's true, and would you just let me do what I want to do? And I didn't even know what I was going to do. So again, to speak of that's maybe the balance, right? So I knew I didn't want to do the sex scene, but I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I was going to follow my instinct, and I knew I wanted to create space where people could be invited in around the whole idea of missing someone. And do we always miss someone? Are we maybe even while you kiss someone, even while you're right next to the person, do you still actually miss something or someone? You know, maybe it's part of the human condition to have this longing, and we live with it. You know, it's the melancholy that surrounds us. It's everywhere. Maybe we miss ourselves. Maybe we're constantly trying to understand. And somehow that's what I wanted to create. And so I decided to not do anything and not say anything, and just touching his chest would be enough. And she touches the chest, she closes her eyes, and everything is there. And with me creating this everything, I invite you to feel and see everything. So maybe that's actually a very good example to portray what I try to talk about, you know, because it's, in my case, it always comes from a place of love. Love to my director, love to the script, most of all, love and deep respect to the creation of anything. I'm a servant to the script. I'm a servant to the story, to the, you know. And Anton Corbijn one day said to me, you follow orders really well, which is so funny because I'm also this person, but I'm also that person. I can follow orders. And I'm always coming from love. But I dare to be silent and say no when I feel something else wants to be born, and it can only be born in a place where there's actually space for it to be born. And I leave it be something that I might not ever understand, and maybe the audience will understand. Or maybe it's something that I put there for all of us to not understand, so we can all join in a moment of deep misunderstanding or disunderstanding, or, you know? Yeah. Microphone, I think we...
Thanks so much. Speaking of silence, years ago I found this tiny note which I wrote in my notebook, which just said screaming silence. And the same day I started making this distinguishment between the active silence and the passive silence, and how much I was learning, downloading like a wisdom of encyclopedia when I was actively silent, and how complicit I was feeling in my life and in other people's lives when I was passively silent. And if I just can make this as a kind of comment, if you have the same distinguishment. And speaking of technology, which you have mentioned, it's actually very important to, as humans, to make the relationship with active silence and what it truly means, and how powerful it can be to quote myself, a screaming silence, and if you have adopted the same type of approach in any way. Just wondering.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I speak of resistance and revolution and silence, it is, of course, an active silence. It is a silence where I am completely awake, where I'm completely aware. And I know exactly what you mean. The passive silence is where we are all asleep. But what is crazy is that we are now living in a time where we are asleep talking. Like, it's even the next level. Like, while we are not silent, we are still actually asleep. So yes, I make the same observations of like passive silence and active silence. I think for me, I mean, the kind of silence I speak about is an active silence. It's a very screaming silence. It's very loud. I can be very loud. You know, a good example, I mean, now I will talk about acting again because I'm an actor. I'm not a revolutionist. But in one of my early works, I had one moment where I was working with, it was called Anonymous, with Roland Emmerich, who normally does like loud noise, you know. And he made a movie about Shakespeare, and I got a small role, and I was already pregnant, and it was a bit crazy to even go there. But I had what they call a speaking role, but I was really down the ladder. I was like number, I don't know. And there was a scene where I was in with the Queen and her chancellor, and I was the lady in waiting with one sentence, I think, yeah. And the whole scene goes on, and suddenly I realized that I am absolutely nothing, that I mean, they don't even look at me, even when I said my line. And then I decided to become actively silent. That's exactly what you mean. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm like furniture, I'm like human furniture. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I will be the most present piece of furniture that has ever existed. And I was just, I embraced being silent. I embraced being furniture, but it was not passive because I was aware of my silence, right? And as the scene goes, we do it like 2 or 3 times. Suddenly, these people look at me and address me because they had to. You know what I mean? Because I was not doing anything. I was really silent. But because of my silence, which was an active silence, they suddenly had to, not a lot, but they would just look at me. And when the scene was over, I never thought that this could even happen. I hear from behind the walls, you know, in this kind of Hollywood cinema, sometimes they do it like this. You have the scene here, and then it's like a wall, another wall, and somewhere is a director on the screen, looking at the screen with headphones. And suddenly I hear from far away, "Cut, that was wonderful, wonderful." And he came on stage, and he came to tell me how wonderful that was, and, you know, great, whatever. I thought I was really invisible. I was okay with being invisible, but I wanted to be, wie sagt man das, würdevoll, carry my Würde, like my, not honor, but like, I don't find the word. I will find it later. Yeah, exactly. I was taking up the space with my consciousness, and my consciousness was carrying my dignity. That's what I mean, my dignity. But I didn't do this in order for the director to see me, because I was okay with being I had made peace with being a furniture. But I think that's the best I can say to this. There is a way that we can be actively silenced by having an opinion still, or having... I mean, have you seen Phantom Thread? Well, the whole movie is active silence, because I was not, my character was not really allowed to speak, not really allowed to, and this is also, became my frustration. And if you look at my eyes in the film, my eyes are screaming. I mean, screaming. I thought I was going to die, you know, with this guy. It was just so much, and it was so all the time, you know. So when we did the asparagus scene, I was ready to break the silence, and we had a scene with an ending that I felt like, I don't feel this ending, you know. I was like, I don't, but who am I? I'm not someone, I cannot go to the director and say, hey, Paul Thomas Anderson, I think there's not the right ending to your scene. You know, I can't. Today maybe I could, but then but it's boiling in me, and I'm like, I have to. I don't know what will happen today, but something will happen. And we do the scene, luckily with, you know, when they do it with 2 cameras from 2 sides, so you don't have to cut. And we sit down for the scene, and at some point I really just had it. Because he was like this every day. On set, off set. I had to drink tea, we had, you know, conversations. It was, by that time, weeks of a lot. And then I look at him and I say, stop it. And I really, really meant it. I said, stop it. Stop this game. And the game I meant was, you could say it's method acting, but you can also say it's the game of power, it's the game of, oh, I'm the man, you're the woman, it's the game of, oh, I'm old, you're young, oh, I'm famous, you're not famous, oh, I'm so intellectual, I'm suffering over here from my childhood and everything, and I just, you know, but not there. Like, we have to be here as humans. We can be silent or not silent, but we have, it's not okay to not be here. And I think that a lot of the terrible things that happen in cinema and that happen in our society, and especially between men and women, and most abuse, I think, comes from not being there. I don't think any human really consciously, yes, you have a few sick minds, but this is really, you know, a corner of like, it's probably sick. But everything else, it's just someone who wasn't present, who wasn't there, and didn't even fucking realize what they were doing. Because they're so stuck in their own, I'm this guy, and then you're this guy, and then you're this one, and now we have to behave, and, you know, I'm the teacher, and you're the student, and I'm the famous, and you're not famous, and it's all this, like, games we play as humans, you know, in society. And we are so stuck in this. We are so stuck. But I think we are at the moment, and this is why I allow myself to even talk to you all, is like I feel that I was in the German Film Academy's thing, and I had to say something at the end. And you know, I feel that me as an actress, but mainly as a woman, I feel so responsible at the moment, because it's almost like as if in the core, the center of our earth, the center of our humanity, something is moving, and I think it's the woman, and it's just moving really slowly, and it's this femininity that is in all of us. It's moving in all of us. It's not moving in women, it's moving in all humans. And it's moving in a way that if we let it unfold, we might become human again. And it's not about man or woman or black or white or old or young, or it's going to be called human, you know, I think. And as women, because it has to do with our role in this right now, it's our responsibility to speak out. And mainly to speak out about our wounds. What has hurt us or what is hurting us. Even what has hurt our mothers and our grandmothers. Because the sad truth, and I say it with all my love to all men that I love and adore, men didn't get a chance to even know what is a woman. It wasn't shared, you know, and it's no one's fault. But there's a big gap of communication, there's a big gap of knowledge. And we women today and our daughters are called upon to show ourselves and say, this is who I am, and this actually hurts me, or this actually is something I struggle with, or this, you know, so we can do it together, because we need to do it together. Voilà. I did the whole... Thank you. I think I talked enough. What do you think? I mean, unless someone has a burning question. We have 10, but as I said, we can spend 10 minutes in silence. No, I think I let you all go. Be free.